Okay, thank you.
xin cảm ơn mọi người.
So we did the last week there was a request for the Yamantaka mantra transmission, and even though we did that, there was some internet problem, and it seems like a number of people missed that. So we will do it once more. Since right now the network is I think it's quite stable. So the Yamantaka is the wrathful form of Manjushri, and Manjushri is none other than the Buddha of wisdom. So Manjushri is usually attributed with the soft skills, or the smoother version of wisdom, whereas the Yamantaka is the wrathful method of wisdom. So for people of our generation who are lazy, who are not able to put much effort as we should be doing in the degenerate times, the power of Yamantaka, the power of Manjushri Buddha in the most wrathful form, that of the Yamantaka, is highly efficient. So therefore, that is why we will be doing the Yamantaka. We are doing Yamantaka mantra. So those of you who do not wish to receive the Yamantaka mantra transmission, those who have no interest in the tantric practices, so bear with me for a few minutes, maybe 3 to 4 minutes. You can close your screen and mute, or if those of you who wish to receive the oral transmission, please do so with the proper motivation of the Mahayana, which is to attain enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. So the first mantra we will be doing is the combined mantra of both the peaceful and wrathful form of Buddha of wisdom, meaning that of the mantra of the Manjushri, mantra of Yamantaka combined. Both Yamantaka and the Manjushri are the Buddha of wisdom, Yamantaka in the wrathful form and Manjushri in the pacified or peaceful form. Think of that as one person in two different moods, one in a very light mood and the other in a very sort of an angry mood. Anger not coming out of hatred or judgment or anything like that, but anger due to dissatisfaction with how people are dealing with their lives. So therefore they are utterly moved from the core of their heart to liberate sentient beings. So that sort of wrathfulness is there. So the first one is, we will do that mantra first. The combination of the combined mantra of both the peaceful and the wrathful form of of the Buddha of wisdom. Which is, okay, so you can repeat after me. That's if you, Om, Ara, Paza, Nadi, Om, Ara, Paza, Nadi. This can be done 1 to 3 to 21 times or more. So when you do, usually the traditional practice is to do it one round, at least one round. It's not that difficult. In the morning, once you get up, set your motivation and then recite this mantra. And after reciting the mantra, after reciting the Omara Padanadi, finish it off with the repetition of the last syllable, which is the Omara Padanadi, Omara Padanadi. So you can do Omara Padanadi 100 times and do the one more round or many more, or just do one Omara Padanadi, do one Omara Padanadi, and then follow that up with the repetition of the D syllable. Om, Yamaranja, Sadomeya, Yamedoro, Nayodaya, Yadayoni, Rayakya, Yakyaja, Niramaya, Hum, Pet, Soha. Om, Yamaranja, Sadhomeya, Yamedoro, Nayodaya, Yadayoni, Rayakya, Yakyaja, Niramaya, Hum, Pet, Soha. Om, Yamaranja, Sadomeya, Yamedoro, Nayodaya, Yadayoni, Rayakya, Yakyaja, Niramaya, Hum, Pet, Soha. 21 times. Now the next is called action mantra. The benefits of action mantra. So action means activities or the purpose here. So by reciting this mantra, it fulfills the benefit of, so the it is a very powerful and effective practice for eliminating obstacles and other things. So if you have a block of obstacles, then you can recite, beside many other practices, you can do this practice to eliminate those obstacles. This is called action mantra. Om Shristre Vikri Tanana Humpe. Om Shristre Vikri Tanana Humpe. Om Shristre Vikri Tanana Humpe. The next is the essence mantra.
Tiếp theo là câu tâm chú.
Om Yamantaka Humpe. Om Yamantaka Humpe. Om Yamantaka Humpe. So this one 21 times, except for the action mantra. Others are, we can recite it to have a complete effect. You need to recite it for 21 times. with the proper motivation and of course with the proper visualization and everything. And the action mantra should be recited 100 times. 100 times, yeah. Okay, so that's done. We will begin the teaching, which is the Precious Garland of the Supreme Path. So we just recited the mantra, we just received the transmission, but the mantra, the practice of the mantra has to be complemented with the practice of the Sutrayana, or the practice of what we call the fundamental practices, the fundamental basis of Buddhist learning, the fundamental basis of Buddhist practice, which is, so all the tantric practices has to be based upon the foundation of Sutrayana. Without the loving compassion, kindness, morality, generosity, concentration, samadhi, meditation, and putting efforts, and so on and so forth. From the Sutrayana, Mantrayana alone will be of not be of that much effect. Even though Mantrayana is such a great tool to achieve enlightenment. Mantrayana means Vajrayana. Mantrayana, Tantrayana, Vajrayana, kind of same thing. So the Buddha taught two forms of Dharma. The Buddha's teaching, the Dharma, there are two sort of divisions, that of the Sutrayana and that of the Tantrayana. Tantrayana is sometimes referred to as Vajrayana or Mantrayana. And as I said earlier, Mantrayana has to be based upon the understanding of Sutrayana. The understanding of Sutrayana should be utilized, should be harnessed in order to the basis of Sutrayana should be utilized in order to harness the full potential of Mantrayana. So they should go hand in hand. Not one without the other is incomplete. So for the Sutrayana practice, we will do this. So just okay. Now in Buddhist in the Buddhist tantric practices, which we refer to as the Vajrayana, the basis of the Sutrayana is of utmost importance, very important. Without which it will be a Tantrayana, it will be a tantric practice, but it will not be a Vajrayana practice. So tantric practice is not unique to Buddhism. It is even Hinduism or non-Buddhist, many of the Dharmic traditions. Dharma doesn't necessarily have to mean a Buddhist. In Hinduism, there is Dharma. So a number of the Indian traditions, Indian ideology, they are referred to as the Dharmic tradition. So in a large number of Dharmic tradition, they have tantric practices. And tantric practices is not just unique to the Indian, to India or Tibet alone. It is very much there in many other traditions, in Chinese, in Vietnamese. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a Buddhist practice. But in order to make a tantric practice into a Vajrayana practice, for something to become a Vajra means indestructible. At the same time, it also means inseparable. We are talking about inseparability of the Sutra and the Tantra. When the inseparability of wisdom and compassion, inseparability of Sutra and Tantra practices are combined together, then we have Vajrayana. Therefore, it's important to study the Sutrayana, and this is what we'll do today. So today we are talking about the subject of today's, the topic of today's session will be the last of the 10 things to know or 10 things to realize. 10 things to know. So the last two, number 9 and number 10. And the number 9 is that the obstacles, the hindrances, the things that we find. So this is, okay, let's lay down those, some of the basics. There are things that we like, there are things that we do not like, and then there are things that we do not care at all. So normally what we do is we always go after things that we like, and we always try to avoid things that we do not like. And then we don't care, literally, what happens to the one in the middle. We don't mind, we don't care, whatever is happening to the stranger. We call those three sort of individuals friends, enemies, and strangers, complete strangers. So to the friends, to people, to those who we regard as our friends, be it family, be it actual friends, be it your colleague, whatever. When we always look for something good to happen. We always strive for happiness on the part of friends, on their behalf. On the other side, on the other side, which is the enemy, we always, even though we may not say it, or even though we may not consciously express it, at the very bottom of our heart, there's a slight sort of intention at the very core of our heart to wish something bad, to wish something ill for those on this side, those who we regard as our enemy, those who we do not like. We hope that they do not get well. We hope that they become unsuccessful. We hope that something bad befalls them. And in the middle, doesn't really matter anything, whatever happens. So, like friends, that also include yourself, because you consider yourself, you consider yourself as your friend. You always do things that benefits you, that helps you. And so therefore, whenever these three sort of, when this dynamic is changed, is shaken, then we start to worry. Friends, enemy, stranger. So this is the dynamic that we have, the range that we have set up in our mind. And when that is shaken, then everything started to fall apart. So what we are doing here is to counteract that. Whatever you see as good or friend and something to be taken care of, something you are so much stressed about, so much attached towards, that is not all too good here. There are so many flaws here. What you regard as enemy, bad, negative, totally destructive, that also is not that bad. You can learn a lot of things from, you can learn a lot of things from the mistakes that you make, from the enemies that you meet, from the people you dislike. You can learn a lot. And when we learn to do that, when we are no longer torn apart by those two tensions of friends and enemies. When the tension is too tight, then we start to suffer. So what this book or any Dharma book, Dharma text is trying to do is to loosen that tension so that the person who is experiencing all those things, the good and the bad, is no longer suffering. That was the idea. So in that sense, number 9, obstacles, all the people who meant harm to you, who are harming you, who are hurting you. There are a lot of things you can learn from them, and they actually teach you humility. When people do negative things towards you, when people dig for your secrets and expose them, then you are humiliated, and from humiliation comes humility too. And from humility can sound very depressing, but at the same time, humility is a very firm ground from which you can soar very high up. When you have humility, your feet is touching the ground. You have a very firm ground. So there is no way you can fall down any further. When you are egotistic, then it's like you're on the tip of a mountain. When you're at the tip of a mountain, there is not much room to move. It looks spectacular up there, but at the same time, you can't move much. And it's very lonely up there. And if you do some crazy move, you might fall down all the way and die. But when you are firmly grounded in the modesty of humility, then there is no way you can make any mistakes. So therefore, number 9, the obstacles and the enemies, the so-called enemies, are nothing less than our own teacher, because they give us very, very memorable and beneficial lessons in life. So therefore, we should not regard them as something that is totally negligible. So now the next question, immediately when following point number 9, immediately the question arises, this is so crazy. There is a friend, there is an enemy. How can, if you say if you have no like or no dislike, no people harming you, no people helping you, then that's crazy. Doesn't make any sense. This is what we experience, and this is based upon those experiences we live our lives. So the answer is yes and no. Yes, in the what we call in the spiritual practice, we call that in the conventional sense it's a yes, and in the ultimate sense it's a no. In the conventional sense, it's a yes, of course. If you take food that you that is not good for you, you get sick. If you go along with people who you don't like at all, then you started to develop, get irritated, and from that irritation, you do all sort of crazy things. When you are with people you like so much, then other crazy things happen. When you are with people you dislike so much, other crazy things happen. So that is true in the conventional sense. In the conventional sense, it is true, because in the conventional meaning, that is what we have been used to all this time. And but this is the comfortable method. This is the method, this is the way we have used to for so long.
And so therefore we feel it's a right. Isn't that so? Like there, those of us who come from, those of us who were in one culture for so long, and then all of a sudden when we are exposed to another culture, we have a little bit discomfort. Of course, there's excitement and all these things, but we feel like, oh, for me, our culture is the best. I don't know about, I'm not saying other cultures are not good, but for me, my culture is best. We say that, right? That is the reason we say that is because we have been accustomed to our own culture for so long. For like people who are living in a melting pot, in places like, for example, like in New York, or like New Delhi, in places where there's so many foreign people living around, there isn't that much of a culture or tradition, sort of a unique or cultural, traditional culture is not there. Even though you might say, okay, there's a New York culture, there is the, Californian culture or whatever. But, when you live in a traditionally cultured, or when you live within a traditional culture for so long, when you grow up there, and when you suddenly move out of that culture, you feel like, okay, we feel that I am most comfortable, and even though all those cultures may or may not be beautiful, but I think for me this is the best. That the reason we feel so is we are accustomed to that thing. For example, another example is the food culture. The things we love, the food culture, we are accustomed to our own food culture. And because of that, we are most comfortable with the food from our own culture. So why I'm saying this? This is in relation to the ultimate truth here. The ultimate, in the conventional sense, there is enemy, there is all those things, okay? There is things we like, there are things we dislike. But then when we go a little bit further, the so-called enemies, have they been your enemy all your life? Some of those people whom you call as your enemy or people you dislike so much were your business partners. And the reason you become business partners were because, they look like good people, they look like good business people, and so therefore you did business with them, and then all of a sudden they try to outsmart you, they try to fool you around, and then you have big disagreement, and then you become enemies. And then some of them are like your brothers and sisters. So we have family feud within family. Even though as a family, this is the closest thing you can get. But then within a family, there are fight. It can become family, brother and sister, uncle and cousins, becoming enemies. These are so evident. This means the so-called enemy and the so-called friends are not absolute truth. They are empty. Here we are talking about emptiness. They are empty of, so there are many levels of emptiness, okay? So we are not talking about emptiness in the Madhyamika or the middle way, in the the highest philosophical understanding of Buddha Dharma. We are talking about emptiness in the sense of things not being what we see them as. That is the emptiness, the shallowness of our way of life. So the so-called enemy is not always your enemy. So the so-called friends is not always your friend. So therefore, there is nothing to hold on to, be attached towards them, to be so passionately attached towards taking care of one, and so passionately attached towards getting rid of the other, doesn't make any sense at all in the ultimate sense. So in the conventional, yes, there is good, there is bad, enemy, friend, like that. In the ultimate sense, enemies become friend, friends become enemy, things you like become things you do not like, things you do like becomes things you do not like. As I said earlier, you are brought up in a certain custom, certain culture, you like your culture very much, you think that is the best culture in the whole world, then you go out of the your own small place, and then you discover many different cultures, many different food, many different art, and then you start liking them, and you start disliking your own culture, right? All these things happen, which means ultimately there is nothing to grasp at. There is nothing to be passionately attached towards. So that is the reality we are talking about on the point number 10. Okay, so now this is a new chapter, and this new chapter is called 10 things to practice, 10 things to put into practices. Now we have to think, we have to understand that Lama Gampopa, Master Gampopa, is a highly realized master, and he didn't become a realized master just in one night. He did a lot of practices, and in order to do that, he did a lot of retreat. And retreat is not just about physical retreat; it's about mental retreat too. Then he lived the life of a hermit. So he went through a lot of hardship in order to gain realization and to become a great master, and so on and so forth. So he is telling us the path that he himself walked. Now, I don't want you to be discouraged because of what he said here. There are many of those things are quite difficult in today's time. Even for like people living in the monastery like myself, it is not that easy. And not to mention for people who are living a family life, it will be much more difficult for you to practice everything that Master Gampopa said. But then, if we give up, if we get discouraged, then we will get nowhere, right? If we decide not to go outside, if we decide that, then we will never go outside. If we decide we go outside, if we go somewhere or go outside, then there is the possibility for us to go outside. If we decide not to climb the mountain at all, then we will may not climb the mountain. It's the possibility for us to climb. So don't give up, be determined, and try to put into practice as much as you can from all those instructions that Lama Gampopa, Master Gampopa gave. So the 10 things to practice here.
Yes, now I can hear.
Can you hear me? Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
now.
It's better now, Rinpoche.
Sorry, yeah. So I don't know where I left off. So the thing is, all the things Master Gampopa said, we may or may not be able to practice them, but we should not give up. If we give up, then we cannot practice anything. But if we say, okay, I will do my best. I will do my best. You have to have that determination. If you have that determination, you may be able to do 3 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 8 out of 10, or 10 out of 10. If you say, oh, this is too hard, how can I do that? Then you will not be able to do even one of those practices. So therefore, it is important to not give up. Be determined. Okay. So the first practice. So the first practice. So the first thing, first of the 10 things that one should put into practice is not to indulge in worldly life. after entering the gates of the Dharma, after entering the door of Dharma. Meaning, just because you are born in a Buddhist family, it doesn't mean you are a Buddhist, right? Even though we like to put it that way, but that is not so. In order to become a Buddhist, you need to have proper take refuge into take refuge into the triple gem. Have to believe from the core of your heart that Buddha is the teacher, Dharma is the medicine, and Sangha is the nurses, and you are sick. You are sick of samsaric issues, samsaric problems. And in order to get rid of that, you need the doctor, you need the medicine, and you need the nurses to help you with. And with that understanding, you become a Buddha. You become a Buddhist. If you don't call yourself a Buddhist, if you have that idea, you are a Buddhist. If you think you are a crazy person, if you think you are a Christian, if you think you are a Hindu, or if you think you are a Muslim, whatever you think, if you have that idea, you are actually Buddhist at heart. If you think otherwise, then no matter what you label yourself as, you are not a Buddhist. Okay, now after entering the path of Buddha Dharma, or becoming a Buddhist if you like, after entering the door of the Dharma, one should avoid indulging in worldly life. So this is very interesting here. We live in this world, so we have to experience, enjoy, distance. We have to interact with this world. Even if you are a hermit, you still have to interact with the world. If you want something to eat, you have to go begging for food. You have to go begging for this or that. You have to communicate with people. Even if you are a meditator, a hermit, you will still need to interact with people. But indulgence, being indulgent, being vain, indulging in vanity with worldly life, that is something we should be giving up as a practitioner of the Dharma. So the second thing is, after giving up your native place, don't try to live somewhere else permanently. So this is the actual literal saying. But what you have to understand here is that after abandoning your native place means once you started to do practice, you may not be abandoning your physical place. You will still be there, but you are no longer stuck to that ordinary place. And so in a way, you have already, once you start walking towards the gates, the doors of the Dharma, you have already started to walk away from the ordinary sort of place. So therefore, in that sense, you have moved out from the native place. And after that, once you start going into Dharma practices, then you need to stop thinking about living for eternity. In other words, think of impermanence. There's a wonderful line by His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, who said, we are like guests in this planet. We're like visitors to this planet. At the most, we will live up to 100, and then we will go. We have never, as ourselves, we have not been here before like we are, and we will not be back here like we are right now. The time that we will be spending in this world is very short, maximum up to 100. So the thing is, when we are in this world, we have to try to be useful, to be meaningful, to be purposeful. And the purpose and the meaning of living this life, living this short life, being this visitor, being this guest in a hotel, the hotel called life, is to help others. That is what His Holiness said. So similarly, this is based on this understanding that our life is very short. and therefore the life should be the very short life that we live should be lived meaningfully, and meaningful life, a life becomes meaningful when you spend it spiritually, when you spend it serving others, when you serve it constructively, and that is what we should be doing. Oh yeah. So the next is to number 3. Point number 3. The things to practice is to give up arrogance. Don't be an arrogant. Give up arrogance. Give up your ego, and listen and practice accordingly to your teacher's instructions. So this is important too. This is very, of course, all those practices are important. This is very important in the sense because what we do a number of times, there are two kind of people who are intelligent and people who are less intelligent, right? And those who are intelligent usually have this problem. People who are intelligent, who are educated, who have some social status, wealthy, highly educated, high position, people like that, when they come to practice the Dharma, they think they have so much, they have achieved so much, so that they do not need to learn much, maybe just a tiny weeny bit here and there, and then they have the key to everything. And so what they come with is they come with this full bag, right? And when they come with this baggage, they have a bag which is full, a full baggage. So whatever the instruction or things the guru gives, the student, the so-called arrogant student, the arrogant student has no room to put the instructions. Of course, it's a metaphor. The instructions were not a physical thing; it is mental. But at the same time, your mind is totally full of all the achievements that you have done. Oh, I have studied this and that. I have that in this degree. I have, and also like, oh, I have learned from this Nyingma master, this Sayagya master, this Gelug master, this Kagyu master. I've also learned Tai Chi. I've also learned from the Vietnamese master. I even went to India and learned yoga for 3 years, or I did retreat for 7 years, and or I have recited the mantra for actually 3 million times. I have recited the mantra. I've done so much, so there is nothing much that you can teach me, but can you teach me this tiny little bit? When we come with this kind of arrogance, there was a wonderful analogy, story. Anyway, we don't have time for the story. So if we come with the baggage full, then we have no room to put in new objects. Whatever new instruction the guru gives, you have no room to put it there. So whatever the guru teach you, whatever instruction the guru give you, it never sticks on you. It goes like this. It slides off. Because your hand is clenched, not open. You have so many things, you have so many baggages that you are closing your hands, you are gripping in your hand. You don't want to let go of any of those things. So whatever the guru gives you, it doesn't stay there, it just slides off. In order to practice, you need to receive the instructions. In order to receive the instructions, you need to open your mind, your heart. We might say every fiber of your body should be opened up to receive the instructions of your guru. Only then will you be able to effectively receive all the instructions. And once you have all the instructions, then you can practice. You can practice sufficiently. Okay, so I will stop here for Q&A. Or So you can ask any questions, even if it's not from this book or related to your daily practices or any other things. Or you can, just if you have something to say about maybe improving these dialogues, you can say. So whatever, just open up.
Hi, Rinpoche.
Hi, hello.
Yes, Rinpoche, could you please let us know what is the root mantra, and can we recite root mantra for every mantra, or is it just only for Manjushri mantra only?
Okay. So the root so different deities have different root mantras, and this mantra is dedicated especially to the Yamantaka practices. So what it is actually doing is recitation of mantra. Even though we use mantra for external purposes, like to get rid of obstacles and get money, have long life, all those external things. Actually, the very purpose, that is not the ultimate purpose of Dharma practice, and certainly that is not the ultimate practice of a Vajrayana Mantrayana practice. The ultimate purpose, of course, is to it's a spiritual practice, and so therefore it is to get closer to the reality, closer to the truth of your own mind. So you have to. We usually say it is to get closer to the deity. It is Yamantaka deity. It is Manjushri deity. It is whatever deity. Getting closer to a deity does not mean the deity is an external form. The Tibetan word for deity is yitham, which means something that you, something or someone that you hold dear, something that you hold dear. That is the meaning of tham, yitham, something that you hold close, something that you hold dear. That is the meaning of deity. So even though I think deity is a Greek word, I'm not sure, which usually means an external sort of a angel or God or whatever you like. But the actual the real meaning of deity, which is in Tibetan we say yitham, that is actually something that you hold close to your heart, that is dear to you, meaning that the development, the perfection of your mind is the dearest thing to you. And so in order to do that, one needs to develop your mind in the form of in the sense of wisdom, in the sense of compassion. There are many facets of the mind that we need to develop, and Manjushri is the facet of Manjushri, or Yamantaka is the facet of wisdom that the mind has to develop. So when we do the deity, when you do a mantra is dedicated to a deity, and deity means something that you hold dear to yourself. So what you hold dear to yourself at this very moment, when you do the Yamantaka practice, is perfection of your wisdom. So what you are actually doing is the purpose of the root mantra is to accomplish perfection of wisdom. And so once you are able to accomplish the perfection of wisdom, then you will use that wisdom wisely for the benefit of all sentient beings. So that is the idea. So that is the reason, that is the purpose of reciting the root mantra. And this root mantra is subject only to the Yamantaka.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
To tell the story of giving up arrogance. Okay, so there's one request to tell the story of the arrogance, which I skipped, and then there was another request from meaning of mikzima. Okay, I'll tell the story first, and then if there is someone asking questions, live question, I will answer that, and then I will come to the Mixima, okay? The arrogance story, it's a short one. Maybe you have seen that it's a Zen story, and it has actually been depicted in many movies and many books and other things. So what happens is the student, someone comes. There was a great master. Someone comes to receive teaching from a great master, and the one who came to receive the teaching, the student. He himself is a very learned scholar, and that scholar is full of arrogance, and he was not really, even though it is important for him to receive that particular instruction, that teaching, but he thinks that teacher is beneath him in many other fields because he knows so many other things, and the teacher knows the teacher from whom he wants to receive that is good in only one subject, or so he comes to that teacher and with full of arrogance, and the air of arrogance is all there, and the teacher can notice that. So when he sits down, the teacher asks him to sit down, and then invites him for a cup of tea. And then the bowls were set, and the teacher starts pouring the cup of tea to the student first. And the student was like, of course, even the teacher knows that I am such a great scholar. That's why he's pouring the tea to me first. And his pride is getting more and more filled up. And then the teacher starts pouring the tea into the cup. And he kept pouring and pouring and pouring and pouring. Even when the cup is full, the teacher still kept pouring. And then the student who is a great scholar himself was really, he was surprised why the teacher is doing that. He didn't say anything at first. He thought maybe the teacher is blind or something, can't see very well in his old age. And then he knew that the teacher is doing it deliberately. And then he said, why are you doing this? You are wasting all those, this great tea. It's all pouring down. Nothing is being saved here. And then the teacher said, just like that. So when the container is full, then we cannot pour. When the cup is full, we cannot pour any new tea into it. Whatever new tea, whatever new instruction, whatever new thing we put into it, it cannot contain it anymore. It's all gone waste. So in order to receive new teachings, in order to receive new content, the old contents of that cup must be emptied, should be put aside. Ego should be put aside. Ego should be put aside. When you move ego out of the way, your brain or your mind, whatever you call it, has an infinite capability. It can store so many instructions, so many information, so many lessons. But when ego comes into your mind, then you don't have room for even one single lesson, one single word. So that is the lesson given. So I will pick one of the questions, one of the requests. So there's meaning of the Mixima, because since we do Mixima all the time, so Mixima. The meaning of Mixima, I don't know whether we have it available on the screen or not, but anyway, so just very short. Mixima pays homage, pays obeisance to what we call the three lords, Lord Manjushri, Lord Vajrapani, and Lord Chenrezig. So they are the Lord of power, Vajrapani, the Lord of power, Manjushri, the Lord of wisdom, Avalokiteshvara or Chenrezig, the Lord of compassion. So these three lords. So in order to accomplish yourself, and in order to fulfill the wishes and the desires of other sentient beings, you need to have these three potential or power, these three qualities. And so they are called the Lord of the three, the Lord of the three kind, or the Lord of the three races. Anyway, so these three lords and Lama Tsongkhapa, four here, are paid obeisance. We pay obeisance, we pay homage to the three lords and Lama Tsongkhapa. So there are many different ways of Migzima, like some are four-line. Usually whenever we write in Tibetan, the prose, the poem, the poetry, it's 4 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's actually from the Sanskrit. It's called shloka, which means four stanzas. So normally, I think we have here is the 4-line one. And we have 7-line, 9-line, 11-line, 13-line, many. In the 4-line, Vajrapani, the Lord of Power, is skipped here. So this particular prayer is written by Lama Tsongkhapa himself first. And he has a guru. Lama Tsongkhapa's guru is known by the name of Rendawa. That's his name. Rendawa was Lama Tsongkhapa's. Lama Tsongkhapa has, I think, a couple dozen teachers, and Rendawa is one of the main principal teacher. He is the main human teacher. Main non-human teacher is Manjushri. Main human teacher is the Jesu Rendawa. Anyway, so Lama Tsongkhapa was so grateful for the kindness of his master Jesu Rendawa, and he wrote this poem first to Jesu Rendawa. He offered that poem as a sign of his obeisance, of his gratitude to Jesu Rendawa. And so the line is a little different. Instead of the second line, Time Khenpa Wangpo Jambe Yang, comes first, and Mingme Tsewe Dejen Jenresi comes second. And instead of Mingme, it is Tseme Tsewe Dejen Jenresi. And then the fourth line, instead of Kanjen Kepe Tsugyen Tsongkhapa, it is Kanjen Kepe Tsugyen Rendawa. And then Lobsang Chape Shabla Soadev is actually Shunu Lodro Shabla Soadev. I pay homage to Shunu Lodro. Shunu Lodro is the actual sort of name of Jesu Rendawa. Jesu Rendawa is like a title. It's like so. So what Lama Tsongkhapa, when Lama Tsongkhapa offered, Lama Tsongkhapa himself was, as the story like we told about the arrogant and all these things. Lama Tsongkhapa was already a great scholar by his own standard, and he was a great scholar, and he very highly regards Jesu Rendawa as well. So when he offered that poem to Jesu Rendawa, Lama Tsongkhapa was not just a great scholar, he was a well-known scholar. He goes to debate, and people challenge him, they cannot challenge him. And so he's a great debater as well. So when he offered that prayer to Jesu Rendawa was pleased, but at the same time he said, actually this prayer befits you more than it does to me. So I think we should change it a little bit. So instead of Time Khenpa Wangpo Jambe Yang Kanje Kepe Tsugyen Tsongkhapa, Time Khenpa Wangpo Jambe Yang Mime Tsewe Dejen Jenresi, it become Mime Tsewe Dejen Jenresi became the first line, because Jesu Rendawa is well known as regarded as the emanation of Manjushri. So I think that's the reason why Lama Tsongkhapa put Manjushri first. And then when Manjushri, Jesu Rendawa gave it back to Lama Tsongkhapa, he changed Jenresi, he put Jenresi on the top line. Mime Tsewe Dejen Jenresi. And the second line is Time Khenpa Wangpo Jambe Yang. So like that, everything's same. So you have the Dupung Maulu Jomze Samenda, the Vajrapani. Sometimes in this line, in this line it's a 4-line, so we skip it here. Anyway, so this is the prayer given. So this is a very precious practice, very precious teaching, very precious in the sense it was written by two great masters, who very humbly Lama Tsongkhapa was a great scholar, but he was very humble, no arrogance, very full of humility, and very humbly wrote this prayer to Jesu Rendawa. And Jesu Rendawa also, he is the master of Lama Tsongkhapa, but still he was more humble than Lama Tsongkhapa in a sense. He gave that poem back to Lama Tsongkhapa. So much humility you see here, no sign of arrogance or ego here at all. Two great masters, probably the greatest masters of their time, and no sign of arrogance at all. Full devotion, purity, and humility. So this was written with such prose. And they are both great masters, so they wrote so well. So the meaning of the poem is that, the meaning of this prayer is that Lama Tsongkhapa, you are the Manjushri, Lord of Wisdom. You are Vajrapani, the Lord of secrets, or the Lord of Power. You are Generosic, the Lord of Compassion. Lama Tsongkhapa said that first to Jesu Rendawa, and then Jesu Rendawa gave it back to Lama Tsongkhapa. So in that sense, it is very, very powerful practice. So unlike many other practices, I mean, all the practices, all the prayers were so good. We cannot say this is good practice, this is not good practice. But here you will see so much humility. In many other prayers, you see a lot of artistic, poetic skills. You see a lot of philosophical skills. You see a lot of academic skills and other things. But here, the first thing you will see is humility. And in that sense, we do this prayer in the beginning when we come to in the monastery that I live in Sarah. When we first begin our prayer, when we enter the monastery, we say this one. And when we go out, when the prayer is finished, we say we come in, getting rid of humility, paying obeisance to our masters. We go out with all the accumulation of the merit, and whatever merit we have accumulated during the prayer, we pay obeisance to the masters without any single sign of arrogance at all. So that is why this prayer is very special. And that is why we do it often at the end of our sessions too. Okay, so there's one question about karma. I think that's true. Okay. I will answer the short question first. The short question is, how can lay people practice the Dharma? Because we don't have much time. How can we, the lay people, practice like the great masters? Okay, this one I answer first, okay? How can the lay people in today's time follow the steps of our great masters? So look at what the great masters have been doing, and try to copy, try to repeat whatever the things that you have been, that they have done, that inspires you as much as you can. So what the Buddhas or the great masters has been telling us all the time, well, Buddha's summarization of Buddha's teaching, commit not unwholesome deed, gather a wealth of virtues, and subdue your mind. 3 things. Don't do bad things, do good things, and control your mind. 3 things, right? So this is the gist of Buddha's teaching. So in your day-to-day life, do as much as you can in that sense. Don't do bad things. If you are tempted to do anything bad, to harm others, to fool others, when you have the opportunity, when you have the chance to fool people, when you have the chance to hurt people, when you have the opportunity to get rid of people, don't do it. Or try to refrain from doing those things as much as you can, until it's, of course, uncontrollable. Then that's another matter. But try to just don't let it loose. Just don't what we call this, be conscientious, be attentive, be alert, be aware of what your actions are, what your thoughts are, what your speech is. Whatever I am saying today, Is it hurting other people? Am I fooling other people? If I'm doing that, don't do it. Refrain from doing it as much as you can. The first thing. And do good as much as you can, right? Whenever there's an opportunity to help someone, if someone asks a question, like you guys are asking question and I'm answering your question. So this is doing a good thing. Like that, you do good things. Whenever there's an opportunity rise for you to do good thing, just do it. Very simple, right? Whenever there's opportunity to do bad things, don't do it. Whenever there's an opportunity to do good things, just do it. And do bad things, no opportunity to do good things, then close your eyes and try to control your mind. Subdue your mind. Easy to understand, right? Maybe not easy to apply. Very simple. On top of that, if you have received initiation, if you have received instruction from your guru to do this and that practices, then do those things as well. The main practice is to don't do bad things when the opportunity rises to do that. Do good things when the opportunity rises to do good things, and tame your mind. That's all. And one very important thing in spiritual practice, don't use the measurement of external things. Don't use the ruler of external things to measure your spiritual progress, spiritual practice. Material things, it is measurable. It's physically measurable, but spiritual practice is not physically measurable. But if you look within yourself and if you practice last year's you to today's you, last month's you to today's you, if you keep on continuing practice, you will lose your temper less. You are less stingy. You are less, your craving has lessened down. So many things have lessened down, and that is your progress. If you are less anxious, that is your progress compared to last year, compared to 10 years, compared to maybe last month. So if you see that kind of practice, this is the progress you should be measuring. But you cannot measure it like, that is how you should be measuring. And don't look for the result. When you do Dharma practice, just do it. The result comes by itself. People tell you, you don't have to look for the result yourself. People tell you, you are such a short-tempered person before. Like, how come you are so calm nowadays? There was okay, I think better stop here. So one last thing. So when people ask me to give advice, I only have one word to say. I always say, be alert. Be alert. Keep a lookout. Be alert. Be alert about the opportunities to do bad things and opportunities to do good things. The loopholes to do bad things and the opportunity to do good things. Whenever those opportunities to do good or bad arises, be alert and be wise as how to engage in those two things. So I have a screenshot. I have noted down your questions, so I will answer them next week. Those of you, the unanswered ones, I will respond next week. Okay, so we do the dedication. Okay, so whatever wisdom we have gained today, and whatever merit we have accumulated by gaining wisdom on the Dharma today, we dedicate all of that to the Buddhahood, to the complete enlightenment of all sentient beings, for which I am responsible. And this is the dedication we do. In order to liberate all sentient beings, I need to become enlightened. And in order for me to become enlightened, I need to practice the Dharma. And in order for me to practice the Dharma needs to sustain. The Dharma needs to prevail. So we pray for the prevailing of Dharma, for the welfare of all sentient beings, the complete welfare of all sentient beings, which is Buddhahood. This is what we are going to pray. Chanjo semjo rembo je maye panama gejo kebo nyamba meba ya one gondo bewa. Okay. Mi menze dere je me aige oi jenge be toi gen zoi ai oi zoi me Okay. Oh yeah. Come on. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Rinpoche. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Rinpoche.
Bye-bye. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Rinpoche.
Chào cả nhà nhá. Chào tất cả các anh các chị nhá.